Wait a bloody second. If you are listening to this on the day of release, that means you have less than 24 hours to pre-order the shirt or the poster or the shirt and poster combo. It lets you save a $5. We're going to mention in the episode the live show a couple of times. Tickets have already sold out by this point. My deepest apologies. We underestimated demand, and the venue we booked was simply too small to allow everyone who wanted to attend. So those are sold out. I'm ever so sorry. But you can absolutely still buy a shirt. I will be ordering them on the 17th. So you have to get those orders in before midnight GMT on the 16th of March. All right, enjoy the fucking pod.
Jesus Christ, that's Jason Bourne.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Kill Jason Bourne, I guess. We're in a transitional phase in this podcast because we are we're on the cusp. We're on the cusp of killing the coward James Bond and doing something new and emerging from our sort of Bond chrysalis. But in the meantime, until the live show when we can finally do that, we're going to have to do something else. And I thought, what's a useful counterpoint to James Bond other than the 2000s slightly grittier, slightly thinkier series, Jason Bourne? Beginning, of course.
We're on our little mid-season break. You know, we're on a little Sojourn, a little Sojourn.
Absolutely, a Sojourn.
And we should plug the live show again, like now, because I guarantee there will be a lot of people who didn't listen all the way through the podcast last time.
That's true.
Yeah. No, OB is sold out. 8th of April. Put some time aside.
On the 8th of April,
will maybe be up by the time this is out.
In London.
Sold out, sorry.
There will be a live show. All of us will be at it. We will kill James Bond and you can help.
Yeah, no, I sold out.
Yeah. I mentioned it on stream a while ago and everyone was like, what? So you gotta listen to the whole podcast. You gotta listen to all of it.
You have to. The end matter is not just admin. But we begin with the Sojourn identity. The first one of these came out 2002. They made this, well, they were in the process of making this pre 9/11. The original release date was 7th of September, and then for reasons they pushed it back a bit to the point where it came out in 2002. So this is like technically a post 9/11 movie, but spiritually a pre 9/11 movie. And this is gonna like explain a few things about it, I think. Mm-hmm. But we begin with very little fanfare. You don't even get like the noise over the studio logos. We begin in the Mediterranean, south of Marseille, where a few guys, some fishermen, are doing...
A couple of dudes!
Yeah, they're doing the ultimate fisherman activity, which is getting absolutely filthy and playing cards with your boys in like a heaving sea. And one of them goes out for, I guess, to maybe do some fishing. He's remembered what his job is. And he sees like what he thinks is a dead body floating in the sea with a little like flashing strobe marker on it. So they haul that guy aboard, and it's none other than wet Matt Damon.
A very young Matt Damon.
He looks very boyish.
Baby.
Yeah, a little infant. the infant Matt Damon is delivered onto a fishing boat. Yeah, absolutely.
He's this cute looking guy.
And
the larval Matt Damon.
So what they do with Wet Damon is that they don't like call the Coast Guard or anything. They just put him on a table. What, Wet Damon?
No, they should have called somebody. I'm surprised they did. Now you've said that, I'm like, why didn't they do that?
Yeah, I've identified. This is the problem with this movie: is you can identify plot holes in it very easily and like pick it apart. And I don't really want to do that, but you can't help it sometimes.
Fishermen very much have the sort of like wolf instinct where if they find an abandoned boy, they will just adopt him.
Yeah, he was raised by fishermen.
He's by fishermen. Taught the ways of the sea.
I mean, he really is, right? Because like they nurse him back to health and they teach him their ways because they think he's dead. He like twitches a bit and they realize he's not. And their, I guess, 19th century ship's doctor decides to do some surgery on him. Takes 2 bullets out of his back and then a little like canister out of his hip.
Yeah, he's got like a little capsule thing, and the fisherman surgeon presses a button on this capsule, and it projects an address in Zurich and a numbered bank account, which is like straight away insanely cool. Like,
yeah, it's a great conceit.
Yeah, it's fucking sick.
Yeah, so good.
Also, I will point out the second thing that he does with this, having realized that it shines a little laser light, is to shine it directly into his own eye.
Yeah, nicely done.
He sees when it lights up, points it straight into his own eye, and goes, "Oh fuck!" and then puts it and shines it on the wall.
So yeah, and
Damon attacks.
Wet Damon attacks him. He like attacks him. He wants to know who he is, where he is. He doesn't have any memory because
doesn't even know his name.
No, he has amnesia, and he's just been found like this. And so what happens is that they do just raise him as their own, right? They give him the fisherman ensemble of like extremely gross cable knit sweater and like big baby. Waterproof pants, and then he just fishes for a bit until they get back into, I'm not even sure whether it's Italy or France, but like Europe generally.
Sadly, however, before they get back, the film immediately like ruins the most interesting thing about it, because this is like a great setup for a mystery. Is like this guy has to go on and discover who he is, and like it would be a very, very interesting mystery were it not for the fact that as soon as he passes out again, having had the bullets taken out, we cut to CIA headquarters in Langley, and somebody reports into the head guy's office. I have
the drop.
Mission failed.
Yeah.
Mission
so
failed.
Immediately we pose
time.
this interesting question of like, oh, who is this guy? And then it's immediately answered by, oh, he's CIA.
He's a CIA guy.
They should have left that
Jason
out.
Bourne.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, more like the CRT, given all the fucking monitors they have.
I made a note of the monitors.
Nice,
very
go off.
cool.
It's so dated. It's weird, right? Because a lot of this movie is like meant to seem modern, and it's 20 years ago, and a lot of this shit doesn't exist anymore, and it just made me feel very old.
But the guy who hears that the mission has failed is going to be our kind of villain, one of the villains for the show.
Yeah, he's not named in the thing. He's named in the credits as Conklin. He's Chris Cooper, and if you know the actor Chris Cooper, you know that he loves this kind of role.
Yeah, like, he's the American Alan Rickman. He's
exactly.
He's
I don't play villains. I play very interesting people. So. Yeah, the guy who's Wet Damon gets into I guess Italy, and the fishermen who have raised him, his fish parents, have had a whip round to give him enough money to get to Switzerland so that he can investigate what's in this thing. It's so nice of them.
This movie has a great deal of respect for the noble fisherman.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They put him in an escape pod. He flees the boat. He's the last son of the fishing boat, and they're like, you, our son, go out into the world and always represent the values of the SS Mermaid that we're on. We don't even learn the name of the
always represent the values of the SS. So
remember the ways of the fisherman.
so he immediately forgets the ways of the fisherman and gets on a TGV to Zurich.
Using the power of editing, because we see that he has retained some skills. Like he speaks French and German, and he knows how to tie knots, but he doesn't know his name or his backstory. And he also has gained the superpower of disappearing using a wipe edit. So this is something he does multiple times in the film, is that something goes across the camera and then Jason Bourne disappears behind it, and we're like, yes, that's editing.
I count 4 instances of this, and it's meant to be like, he's like a ghost, he's invisible. And it's like...
It just looks like a bad cut.
Yeah, it looks like a bad cut, or you imagine that the thing moving in front of the screen is like he's just sprinting behind it to stay out of
like crouching behind it.
I thought it was a mistake the first time. It's like, oh, fuck.
So he gets on a TGV.
You're watching a movie like, oh fuck, we've lost Damon.
So he gets on a TGV to Zurich, where he sleeps on a park bench, because I guess the fish money didn't stretch to like a hostel or anything. Mm-hmm. And the 2 most comically accented Swiss cops come and try to give him a hard time over it. They like try to move him on. They ask him for his ID. He doesn't have any ID. He's got amnesia. So at this point, they try to arrest him. And I mentioned in the tuxedo episode,
tuxedo mode,
a guy kicking people's asses and not knowing how he's doing it and looking horrified is always fun to me. And this is a prime example of that, because he just grabs both of them and puts them in the hospital very efficiently.
He just fucking dismantles these two guys and then looks so... He ends it like holding a gun, and you can see him look down at the gun and go, oh, what the fuck? Oh.
Yeah, and then he puts the gun in the bin, which is a nice touch. He's like, I don't want this.
He doesn't put this one in the bin. This is the first of 2 guns that he throws away. This one, he perfectly field strips. He takes the slide off the top and then just leaves it. And it's good. That's an efficient way of being like, oh, this guy is like somehow very familiar with firearms, but he's also horrified at them.
Yeah, a very interesting question that would be quite intriguing were it not for the fact that we once again cut back to the CIA. We find out that there's this guy called Wombosi, who is a former African dictator of we don't know where, but he is demanding that the CIA help put him back in power, or he's threatening to expose...
The line about this. Yes, so...
He's writing a book about the agency's history in Africa. He's going to name names. It's basically a shakedown.
It's basically a shakedown, because you couldn't just have the CIA want to kill him for that. It has to be that he's extorting them, he's blackmailing them, with the demand to be put back in power. And I have a lot of thoughts about the character of Nkwana Wombosi, right? He's in exile in France, which is sort of a like Jean Bedel Bokassa thing. The script says Idi Amin crossed with Mobutu, right? But there's something about the way in which he's played, even the way in which he's dressed, like the glasses are pure Patrice Lumumba to me, right? And there's something there, which I think I'll get into later.
Also, like the way he's played is he's not played necessarily as like massively evil. He's kind of I quite like the way that Wombosi is depicted.
Yeah,
I don't know who the actor is, but he's very good.
Yeah, he was in Leverage. He wasn't in Leverage. He was in fucking...
I hate to say this. He was in he was not in Leverage. He was in Suicide Squad, actually. He played Killer Croc.
Really?
Which is probably the worst credit I could possibly give him. But he's a fantastic actor. I'm not going to try to pronounce his surname, but it's Adewale. It's his first.
Yeah, Adewale Akinoye Agbaje. I'm sorry if I get that wrong, but I did my best.
It would have been very easy to have this role be like quite offensive, but I think he does.
I think so.
He does a really good job.
One of the things that he's accusing the CIA of is he says 2 weeks ago there was an assassination attempt on me, and we see the CIA boss go, well, this hasn't happened, right? Nobody knows anything about this.
Yeah,
and then
like
everyone in the room, including Brian Cox, is like, no idea. Nope, no clue.
Brian Cox, another one of these actors who loves to play this type of guy.
Yeah.
And
he loves it, man.
He's just walked in from like creating Wolverine.
Yeah, he did that in X-Men.
Brian Cox, who used
I think
to be
he did the exact in the band D-Ream. He did the same one in that Leonardo DiCaprio spy movie we watched for Trash Future as well. He did basically the same role. Yeah, he loves to be a conniving sort of upper to middle management spy piece of shit. He loves it.
Oh, he absolutely adores it. And he suits it.
Yeah.
He's completely typecast for it, but he's really fucking good at it. So
this is also something that I want to talk about, right? Which is that there's 2 kinds of appropriate, like allowable ways to do a movie in which Western intelligence service is the bad guy, right? We saw one of them in Inspector, right? Which is you just do a fictional spy agency. That's not the CIA. It's the SIA. It's MI7.
It's the CSA from Tuxedo.
Exactly.
CSA, yeah.
Exactly. And like the other way to do it is it's a rogue unit within the otherwise morally upstanding CIA, and that's what's happening here. Brian Cox has given Chris Cooper the green light to do a secret project, a secret kill team within the CIA, and he's concealed this from everybody else. And so, therefore, they have to clean up their own mess. The guy who tried to kill Wombosi is obviously Wet Damon.
Obviously Wet Damon.
And therefore, they have to find him and, I guess, bring him back in, right? That's the goal. But,
again, it would have been a lot better if we'd find this out later and just stayed with Wet Damon.
Yes.
As he, because there's a really nice scene where he goes to the Swiss bank and retrieves the deposit box, and it has a whole bunch of passports in it.
Oh, this is perfect.
Cash in different currencies and a gun.
It's a great conceit. You go to a safety deposit box that's that you have access to. It's a numbered account, and in there you find a shitload of identical passports of you from different countries, a gun, an admittedly awful Tag Heuer watch, and fucking contact lenses for changing your eye color, shit like this. The one thing I don't like about this scene, right, and this is, we're moving out of the realm of intelligence, of which I have like no personal experience, and into the realm of Swiss banks, of which I have some personal experience.
I think you have a lot of experience of intelligence, Alice.
Oh, thank you.
That laugh was that it was funny. That wasn't.
No, sure, whatever. But like the point is, he goes to this Swiss bank in his filthy, stinking fisherman attire, and everyone's like,
So
"Oh, you are a
funny.
horrible piece of shit. We will be calling the police immediately. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you." And it's like, no. Swiss banks are nice to you. They're just nice to you in this really kind of restrained, security is 2 paces behind you kind of way. So like, even if you look poor and weird, like there's a lot of very rich people who look poor and weird. Going into your Swiss bank in your stinking fisherman attire is not the weirdest thing a rich person has ever done, and it's absolutely the kind of thing that you just like brush off. But yeah, no. So he gets his safety deposit box, and I mean,
a truly rich person that has like a sort of fetishization of looking poor.
Yeah,
Like any of Kanye's fucking clothing line, like
absolutely.
This is also like a very cool. I get the appeal of this film, like almost not quite as a power fantasy, but as like a what if you woke up one day and like you didn't have your memory, so you had no responsibilities and no ties, and you found out that actually you're like cool and there's like a mystery in your life for you to solve. And what if you woke up and you had a completely different identity and like you had a passport and stuff? And yeah, you feel free to fill in your own jokes here. Listen.
I mean, it's that or North by Northwest or something like that, where it's mistaken identity, right? Where you go, actually, I'm not this super cool spy, and everyone's like, yes, you are, and you're trying to fool me, and you like rise to the occasion. I kind of like
or
this.
Cars 2.
Yeah, or Cars 2.
Cars 2.
Also, a truly
Single
stupid thing of me to note, but he has all of these passports, like Brazil and Canada. One that says John Michael Caine, which will be important later. He also has a Russian one in the name of Foma Kinyaev. And
Is he Bondov?
This has the worst fucking example of Cyrillic just used for aesthetics in a movie I've ever seen, because the Cyrillic on this passport, his name is Leshivstemesr.
Really? That's sick.
Really. But he does find that the top passport, the top American passport, is Jason Bourne. He's like, okay, that's my name. I'm going to be known as Jason Bourne from now on. I'm not Wet Damon anymore. They call the cops on him, like, quietly. Like, this triggers some kind of alert, and on his way out, the Swiss bank call the cops on him. And what follows is, I think, my favorite scene in the movie. Is he's walking through Zurich. All of the streets are covered in snow. He gets to disappear through another wipe transition by running in front of a tram. But because he's beaten up these 2 cops, the cops are looking for him. And one thing this movie does very well is the sort of terror of someone talking about you on a radio.
Yeah.
So he walks past a couple of cops trying to like play it cool, and they just like immediately like 2 paces round and like talk into the radios and start following him. There's other cop cars coming up, and he's like panics, but everyone's staying at walking pace.
Yeah,
There's
this is a
like
really good scene.
air of like danger and menace, but like everyone's just sort of like waiting for it to turn into a chase.
There's also a really nice moment where also in the box is an address in Paris registered to him. So he calls that number for his address in Paris, and he hears an answer phone message in his own voice and like doesn't recognize it. And I love this little moment where like he's obviously very scared, and the version of himself on the other side of the line is like very assertive. It's like, hello, this is Paris, like leave a message. And he's like, oh fuck, like it's just a really creepy, cool bit.
So by chance, he happens to see, I'm not sure if we're meant to think that this is like something he's done instinctually or what, but like he sees that he's outside the US embassy, or the US consulate rather, in Zurich. And so he just ducks in before the police can get to him. And of course they can't come in because it's US territory. And like a sort of a more cowardly film would give you a moment of respite here, but instead what they do is they turn up the big tension dial, and the big like
only gets worse.
You know, this security camera is pointed at you. There is a guy with an earpiece who is looking directly into your eyes, kind of vibe. That's now more intense because there's like the I guess the Marine guards. There's a guy in a suit who's like watching the queue, and meanwhile, up front, there is Franca Potente, our lead actress in this. She's at the counter, and she's like, "Yeah, I know it says M. I have the certificate to change it here. I know the name doesn't match. Listen,
listen. Little clocky.
absolutely.
Phenomenal.
Really?
looking.
No way.
With that chin dip.
Come
But that
on.
nose. No, come on.
Come on.
No.
I think she looks great.
The nose is fish. And Matt Damon says as much because he's like, I was raised by fishermen. I know fish when I see it.
So she's trying to get a student visa for the US, and they're not helping her at all. She's kind of like put upon. She's got like all of these documents and shit. And they're like about to kick her out, but he just kind of like notices this, like, oh, this woman will be important later.
Mm-hmm.
But he realizes that it's getting a bit dangerous for him, and he goes to leave. And one of the security guys tries to stop him because I guess the Swiss police have just like phoned through and like stopped that guy. And he does the thing again. He is about to get arrested. He disarms the guy, takes his gun, runs. Alarms going off. The Marines are like arming themselves.
He puts the gun in a bin.
And he puts the gun in the bin, which I like. I like
It's
this a
also
lot. I
a
like
very
this,
funny
like,
moment where he's running up some stairs and a security guard comes around the corner at the top and he just absolutely sucker punches him in the nuts.
It's so good.
Obliterates
Fuck
that guy's
me.
entire dick and balls. He like skids on his back down like a flight of stairs afterwards, and
Yeah.
it's just like, ooh,
The perfect shoryuken into the nutsack of this guy absolutely takes him down. Also, like every army guy in there, that probably is just what army guys look like, but they've got the funniest hats I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's so
Like,
stupid.
Oh,
they're
the marine
tall.
utility cover. Yeah, no, that's real. And real stupid.
Mwah.
Yeah, and so he is immediately being chased, like in the end of the Blues Brothers. If you've seen that, there are 5,000 Marines in this consulate in Zurich, and all of them want Jason Bourne's blood.
Yep.
So he uses the wily technique of the fish.
Yes, parkour. He escapes out onto a balcony, and I like this. I like the way the Marines like move. That rings, like, that's good to me. All of the officers shutting off and stuff. It's like it's nice. It's good.
There's like a really tense bit where he's like hanging onto the side of a building by his fingernails. It's really, really well shot as he like climbs down the outside of the building. It's so good.
Yeah,
This is
he
my favorite
climbs
bit.
down into the snow, and like very like perilously, and sees none other than Franca Potente again outside in her shitty little car, her mismatched body panels Mini Cooper, which I really love. I love a silly little car.
Yeah.
This is perfect. This is just me. And he's like, I will give you $20,000 to take me to Paris because that's where I think I live. And she is, of course, immediately terrified, confused, but she needs the money, right? And he has this nice moment where she's like, "No, this is way too dangerous for me. I don't want to do that." She's like, and he goes, "Okay, well, can I have my money back, please?"
Which I really do like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're just in the car in the next shot. Meanwhile, back at Langley, back at the Mystery Ranch, we see that Chris Cooper has sort of activated his war room, right? And this is where he'll be for like most of the rest of the movie. Is Jason Bourne will be trying to escape, and we'll cut back to Chris Cooper doing the sort of like Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive thing. There's one point where he just like gets angry enough that he just starts saying verbs. Like he just goes,
Those are the targets. Beg, borrow, pack, tap, bypass. I don't care what you do.
Hack,
okay.
tap, bypass, dance, heel, turn, question, jump.
Let's go, girls.
And what he does make explicit at this point that, like, okay, what we're trying to do is kill Jason Bourne. We can't have any loose ends. And it just kind of begs the question of, like, why? Like, he's
He doesn't know who he fucking is.
They don't know
he doesn't know who he is.
They don't know that he's lost his memory. They just think that he's gone rogue. But they're not even like, okay, we'll like arrest him and debrief him and then have him quietly killed. No, it's just like, oh, he must be killed immediately.
Just like activate death squad.
Yeah,
and they send out the text message that says it's time to start the killing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, ellipsis. Basically, the way this works is Jason Bourne is part of sort of Europe at least wide secret CIA death squad.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very inefficiently distributed, right? Because he's Paris, Barcelona has a guy, Dublin has a guy, Glasgow has a guy. It's
How many people need to be killed in Glasgow?
Well, I mean, if you're asking me,
Stuttgart has a guy, but he was killed by James Bond.
What's really funny is the Barcelona guy is Clive Owen, who is also appearing in this movie and gets one line.
Oh, it's fucking Clive Owen.
Yeah, it's Clive Owen.
I'd written down that it was Mark Strong. I'll be honest with you, I hadn't double checked.
He's called the Professor, but as we're scrolling down this big list on the screen, we see that each one of them has a little code name too. There's an agent.
Mark Strong coded. It's fine.
There's an agent.
The Professor is his code name, but they get texted a word to activate them.
Yeah, there is an agent Brick, by the way, and since there's one in Glasgow, I'm assuming this is just me, and I'm waiting for the text.
You won't remember until you get the text.
Yeah, exactly. But his is Chimp. It says on the screen, Professor some numbers Chimp. So I will be calling him Professor Chimp for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, reasonable.
I keep imagining a version of this film in which we hadn't met Chris Cooper or seen the CIA, and Professor Chimp just like showed up and started hunting Jason Bourne.
Absolutely.
That would have been so much better.
Yeah.
The like terror that like absolutely anyone could be waiting to be secretly activated by text message is great.
And he's got like cool rimless glasses on, and he never says anything.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
they do that at the end of John Wick 2.
Yeah, John Wick 2, a
just gets a
better
text
movie.
and goes,
Time
to start the killing.
Time to start the killing. Yeah, and also the fact that we have this entire CIA death squad, and Chris Cooper makes a big deal out of send everyone, and everyone is like 3 guys. Yeah. Glasgow was not activated for this. I don't know why. Maybe I was busy. But what they get is they get the Professor.
I'm just going to start texting you the word brick now.
Oh,
that's just harassment. That's not...
Yeah.
I've been doing that from a burner phone for the last 2 years.
There's the Professor. There's a guy called Castell who has like a shitty like blonde dye job, and there's another weird German guy. We'll get to fucking Castell.
I fucking love Castell so much.
He's so good.
Okay. Yeah.
But they do have. So we see the Bourne and Marie is her name. They have some quite nice chemistry in the car.
I like these. I like the more downbeat scenes. I like the point of her.
Sweet.
Yeah, the point of her as a character is she's kind of like Eurotrash in a way that I don't think really exists anymore. Like a lot of the Europe of this movie is now of a bygone age, but she's sort of the sort of mold of like, yeah, me and my friends set up a squat in Amsterdam for like 6 weeks, and then the police raided it. So then we were in Biarritz for a while, and it's like, okay, sure, but like that's a very 2000 sort of like Schengen type of like.
This is what Donna from Mamma Mia 2 would have been in real life.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And so she's just talking to fill space, and he's just listening. And she gets a little bit unnerved by this. And he's like, no, please keep talking. You're like the only person I've spoken to who hasn't been a fish guy in weeks. And they have this really
first woman I've spoken to in a long time, or ever, as far as I'm aware.
She's talking about Hearts of Iron 4 for like 60 kilometers. She's like, okay, so you want a division of this combat width? And he's just like, sure, yep.
And he tells her, he's like, fuck it. And he tells her, like, I can't remember anything. I've got all these skills. I've got these like passports. All I know is the ways of the fisherman and how to disarm a policeman.
Absolutely. And I don't know why I know this. And he's weirdly charming. He's weirdly self-effacing. It's kind of an anti-Bond vibe.
It really helps that Matt Damon is quite young looking in this.
So
and
young
also
looking.
That he's not absolutely jacked and like Daniel Craig is. He's not like a too physically imposing. We see that he like does pull-ups and stuff, but he's not like absolutely fucking bursting out of that shirt. And when he does take a shirt off, we see that he's jacked, but like he's not played as being like physically foreboding.
No, and
it's really nice.
it's a very unsmarmy film. Like if we were using the scum system, this would be into negative number territory because it's so.
He's like legitimately just charming.
Yeah, absolutely. He's like not sure what to do, and he like kind of confides in her a bit.
When they get to Paris, he's like, "Okay, here's your money, you can go," and she like doesn't really want to go. She's like, "Well, do you want me to come with you into the flat or like see if there's anyone there?" Like,
yeah, and it's not like, "Oh, would you like to come with me to the flat?" It's like, "Oh, would you want to maybe? I mean, like, come up." It's not quite Hugh Grant kind of levels.
She's like, "Do you have like a
humbling,
family waiting for you?" And he's like, "I don't know."
Yeah, but before this, we do get one little scene, right, where we learn some more about Jason Bourne's super tactical thought process, where they stop for petrol at a petrol station, and essentially what happens is that he explains to her, "Okay, I have an anxiety disorder." He is like me at the live show because he comes into this place and he's like,
I come in here. And the first thing I'm doing is I'm catching the sight lines and looking for an exit.
and she's like, "Okay, well, listen, anybody can do that. That's not weird." And
She's
then,
like, "Yeah, I see the exit sign too, man. Like, don't worry about it."
And
He's
he
like, "No, you don't get
he
it."
goes, "No, you don't get it. I don't just have an anxiety disorder. I have an anxiety disorder and autism. Let me prove this to you."
I can tell you the license plate numbers of all 6 cars outside.
And like he knows that the waitress is left-handed. He knows that thinks he knows the like most likely place to find a gun. He's like constantly instinctually assessing stuff tactically, and he doesn't know what this means, and he's scared. And it's like
He really knows a lot about trains.
yeah, exactly. And we'll come back to this because I think the movie does have something fun and useful to say about this kind of mental conditioning.
Yeah.
Right. But in the meantime, they get to Paris. She buys him a croissant. They go to his apartment, which does the fucking Spectre thing of this guy's life is empty, so he lives in an empty apartment better than Spectre does.
Yeah.
It's really good.
It's just a total like void. He stands in
So
his
clean.
kitchen and he's like, "Oh, this is my kitchen," and you don't believe anyone has ever cooked anything here.
Mm.
And it's like, yeah, no, this is perfect. She goes to like take a bath, I guess, because I mean, you have to imagine this lady. She's been living like in and out of squats and stuff. She gotta smell crazy.
And they've been driving
it's
for
not
however
crazy
long.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
6 hours. 6 hours to get from Zurich to Paris.
okay.
I want to keep that in mind because like their relationship progresses so fast.
Oh.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
a ride or die for this guy that she spent one 6-hour car journey with, and I love it. I respect her.
Absolutely.
I can't remember how he figures out to call the hotel.
He calls the hotel because he finds like a receipt from it, I think.
Yeah.
He calls it and asks, "Hey, have you ever heard of Jason Bourne?" And they're like, "No." "Have you ever heard of John Michael Caine, the name on my previous passport?" And they go, "Oh, Mr. Caine is dead. He was killed instantly in a horrible accident, and his brother came and took all of his things." And he's like, "Oh, okay, thanks." Hangs up on them. Is immediately like, "Yeah, someone's going to try and kill me right now." Grabs a knife from the kitchen and is like walking around with this. And then what happens is that if you recall my man Castell, the man with the shitty dye job from Barcelona,
I love him.
He
Oh my god. Yeah, Castiel from
enters-
He
Supernatural
enters the
enters
film.
the fucking scene.
what he does is he, having abseiled from the apartment above, Iranian embassy style, kicks in a glass door with a submachine gun and tries to kill Jason Bourne
Just
with it.
opening fire as he comes through the window. Like,
It's
Absolutely.
so like the scene. There's no like background music or anything. The scene, like Jason Bourne is just walking around his house, being like, "All right, someone is going to try to kill me," and then a man rappels in through the window, firing a submachine gun. And I pointed at the screen and went, "Kaufman star."
Yeah, absolutely.
Because what's also quite funny is that we see when Bourne at the end of this scene like runs downstairs, we see that somebody has very quietly assassinated his landlady who let him in. So that means that Castell went in through the ground floor,
Yeah, he
assassinated
fucking
the
did.
landlady silently, left,
Went up.
and saved down with a gun.
Why'd you do that?
Why,
Going-
man?
Getting some practice of going silent and then just going loud as fucking physically possible.
So now I've already got the achievement for silent. I wanted to.
So
A really bizarre Hitman playthrough.
yeah, absolutely. so they fight, right?
That's so funny.
The fight choreography is pretty good. I feel like it's badly undercut by the sound editing, by the
Yeah,
dubbing
weird.
here.
It's got like the whoosh punch noises.
Yeah. It's got
I
like man from
despise the
Hong Kong level punches.
Yeah.
It sounds like just like every time. And it's like you're kind of killing it. And I see why this fell by the wayside and why we sort of went for slightly more sort of cinema verite kind of mixing after this. But yeah, no. Bourne like is off guard. He fights back with like an improvised weapon. He grabs a biro off the desk and stabs the guy in the hand with it.
Yeah.
I always, well, after I saw this movie when I was really young, I always wondered whether stabbing someone with a biro actually worked. But like, it's not like I get a lot of opportunities to find out. So that's just
not
one of
until you
those
get
like,
that text.
yeah, exactly. Until I get that text saying brick for the 5th time in a day, and then I'm just like,
Gonna snap.
it's biro time. Yeah.
It's time.
So yeah,
But then what happens is that Jason
Oh.
Bourne beats the shit out of this guy.
Yeah.
It turns out he has a picture of Jason Bourne and Marie like on a flyer, like a wanted poster.
Yeah, she's sort of going into shock here. He does torture him, but he tortures him in a almost now comically tame way, where he like lies on top of him as he's on the floor, and he goes, "Who am I?" And he doesn't answer. He just bonks his head on the ground, kind of lightly.
Yeah.
It's like, "Who am I?" Bonk. Who am I? Bonk. Who am I? Bonk. It's like,
Perfect, like noise.
But then
Yeah.
Castell stands up,
yeah.
turns 180 degrees around.
Yes, he does.
And
Yes, he
runs
does.
through the window and dies.
Exit.
He fucking hits the bricks.
He
man.
tries to do the Spectre secret meeting maneuver, and instead what he does is just pitches perfectly over the balcony
This
and
shot
dies.
is so funny.
It's so
Because
fucking funny because
they should have cut away from that shot before he went over the railing and like cut to Marie's face or something. But
No,
because
it's
they,
the legs
the amount
coming
of
out.
time they hold on it and the fact that you see his ankles go whoop up over the top, it's
to
so
give you
fucking funny.
the full breakdown, right? So he's on the ground. Jason Bourne is going, "Who am I? What do I work for?" Which is a delightful inversion. And Marie
sent
is
me?
like, "Why do you have my photo?" And she like runs over to him, and Jason like gets up and he holds her back, and he's like, "Listen, let me do this." And then we turn around to see that he has stood up and runs directly out of the plate glass door over the balcony,
and dies.
and it's
Perfect.
so good.
Perfect.
It's phenomenal. And they both treat it like they've just seen someone like earnestly take their own life.
The
instead
bricks
of being like,
are
holy shit.
so solidly
Holy
hit.
fuck.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're like, we have to.
Motherfucker exits. Oh my God.
We have to leave this apartment immediately, right? One thing I like about this is Marie. She's going into shock, and this is like
Yeah.
well acted
Yeah.
and reasonable. She's like, he's having to half carry her out of the apartment. She like throws up in the lobby, and then in a truly me move, they go past the body outside, and he's like, "Okay, don't look at it." She immediately looks at it to see Castell, who has just exited like vertically. It's just lying stone
He's left the
dead
building,
on
the
the
shot, the
street.
location, the film, this mortal coil. He's just exited everything that he was a part of in one swoop. Perfect.
He's just out.
Because
It's perfect.
I'm still sort of caught up on like interrogating a guy by being like, "Who do I work for?"
Bonk. Who am I? Bonk. And it's like, so at this point,
Who's
right?
Jersey Bond of?
So at this point, Matt
what kind
Damon,
of line would you use to catch a place?
So Bourne
He's
takes
doing
Marie.
his little like
Oh my
fucking
God.
super spy analysis of
I'm
the
sorry, we've
restaurant.
entered
He's
the
like,
bit zone.
I know. I immediately know what kind of fish these guys are going to be serving. I know exactly what temperature it needs to be cooked at. I know its migratory route.
I know whether it was net caught or trawled.
So he takes them to a train station. I think it's like Gare de l'Est.
Oh my god!
And puts his bank bag full of passports and money in a left luggage locker. And then he asks Marie to wait for him. Each of them think the other one is gonna ditch them, which I like a lot. But no, she stays, although having gone to get a drink because she is not suited for this spy shit at all. And you see that once again we do a sort of less intense version of like the cops quietly pulling up on them. And he's like, okay, well listen, you can go to the cops and tell them everything about me because you know, and not do this, or you can come with me and do some Jason Bourne shit. But you have to decide now. And she decides in his favor, and this leads to a perfect silly little car chase.
Wonderful car chase, and may I just say,
Bang, 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 banger.
An amazing soundtrack on
That's
this.
True. He's got the fucking like mismatch panels mini. He's like, did you take care of this car? And she's like, no.
Did either of you catch the fact that the music used here is the same as was used in the chase at the end of Alex Rider?
Huh. I didn't catch that.
Yeah, when he's doing the stupid horse chase shit that we did on the bonus feed.
Oh fuck! You're
same
right.
song.
So funny.
That's
Yeah,
why
these are
I saw
happening
this and I was like,
simultaneously. In London, a child is riding a horse. In Paris, Jason Bourne is driving a Mini. This also features like the best French cop car era of just like a shitty white Citroen with like body rust, yellow lights, and a like derisory two-tone siren.
Mm-hmm.
And so they just get chased down a shitload of alleys by these guys. He loses some of them by going down the stairs, and then what happens is they're chased by a kind of French motorcycle cop mini boss who is just like,
It's really good.
I will make it my mission in life to catch this guy. And they're unable to shake him off. So what Jason has to
Inspector
do...
Villor is on the case.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what Jason has to do is he has to deploy his superpower of wipe transition teleportation, where they drive alongside in separate lanes. You like brake suddenly, disappears into a wipe, and the cop
So
is
cool
like
that you can
knocked
do that
over
with
the
a car.
handlebars. Yeah, absolutely.
Training is intense, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think this should have been the moment when we did the CIA reveal. Because we're
Yes.
about like halfway through the film,
definitely.
and this is the point where we should have got the twist. And it would have been a good moment to do it, because we see Wombosi, who has been told that Kane is dead, and goes to the morgue to see Kane's body, and he's like, this isn't the guy who tried to assassinate me.
He has a whole entourage, and there's a fantastically acted little thing that I love where he goes to look at the guy and he tosses his coat back over his shoulder, like not in the expectation that someone will catch it. The guy behind him misses it, and you just see his hands, and he just goes kind of like oh, for fuck's sake. It's just like, what do you want me to do with this?
I didn't spell that, but it's very good.
It's great.
Really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's
CIA
like,
are trying to bullshit him, basically.
yeah, with a fake
Yeah.
body. And he's like, this isn't the guy, I don't believe you. Meanwhile, Jason and Marie go to a shitty little hotel, the Hôtel de la Paix. Again, this is a part of Paris that like doesn't really like exist in this way anymore, and it's like it certainly doesn't like it's almost never shot this way anymore.
Yeah.
It's probably like an Airbnb now. But they're in their little safe house. He dyes her hair, he cuts her hair, and then
I need to activate Devon mode.
Please.
Because
You have a slur to say.
we haven't yeah, just texting it to you. We have an early 2000s sex scene. Now, on the bonus feed, listeners, I have talked when we did the Thomas Crown affair about the 90s sex scene. And it's
is,
really
like, bizarre.
quite well done, because like they're both in like tank tops because they're like doing stuff over the sink, cutting her hair. She initiates, and he's initially like, wait, what? And then she
He's like, oh,
it.
this is a sex thing.
yeah. And we also see that she is quite tender when she finds the bullet wounds on his back, and she's like concerned about those. So like, we're like learning something about the characters. Then what happens is like we pull back and we do a shot that travels back through the apartment, and it's implied that they're having sex. And like this scene is interesting to me because in a 90s movie we would then have had 20 to 30 seconds of them like having sex, and we could have done more. And it's like, I welcome the sex scene, but I call on it to go further. But still, it stands out as compared to like a modern film where they would have kissed and we would have cut and that would have been it and we wouldn't have seen anything. So
Yeah.
I think there's somebody should do a video essay about like sex scenes in film, because you can see the direction things are heading in. And we're now at a point in cinema where like everyone is beautiful, but nobody is horny and nobody ever fucks.
We're back to 2 cigarettes and an ashtray.
Yeah, and like, you know, Chris Hemsworth is there with his shirt off and Natalie Portman, like, you know, might make a comment and like look him up and down, but like, you know, nothing happens, right?
Yeah.
And in this, you can see us getting that way, and I think we've lost something. Reject modernity, embrace shagging.
It does have quite a deft touch with the sort of like sensual, I think.
Really
Just
with you on
their little like movements when they're about to kiss. I like that a lot.
It's a lost art.
Meanwhile, Clive Owen is still not. He has one line in this movie, and it's still not time for it. We got another hour before it. He's still silently advancing towards plot, which in this case is Wombosi is in exile in a chateau in central Paris. He walks past a window. Fatal mistake, because outside that window, across the street, is Clive Owen with a beautiful Swiss sniper rifle.
He gets
an
Professor
SG-550. And Professor Chimp fucking takes him off the board. Like, shoots him something like 3 or 4 times, and then just leaves. And you're like, oh, that's what Jason Bourne is meant to have been doing, and that's why the CIA like after him, is because he's like a dangerous assassin. Okay. So Bourne and Marie have to try and go to this hotel where John Michael Caine had stayed, and get the hotel bill because it would tell them something. And
His phone, it might tell him like who he's been calling.
Yeah. And he gives her the like,
I can tell you the license plate numbers of all 6 cars outside.
kind of speech. He's like, you have to, once you get in there, you have to count the number of steps until you get to a neutral point in the lobby. You have to count the number of security, count everybody else. You have to do all of this shit at once at the same time. And she just goes in, asks the guy, and gets a photocopy, which I really like this scene. I think this is kind of an important scene for what this movie wants to say. That all of his like twitchy, hypervigilant spycraft is kind of useless because she can just like establish rapport. She's like, the guy smiled at me, so I just asked him. And I like
just
this
said
a lot.
I was his personal assistant and asked for a photocopy, and he gave it.
Yeah.
I used a police technique called lying.
But like this is all like true, I guess. Like people do train themselves to think in like, I am in condition yellow all of the time, and it's like, oh, this is yeah, exactly. And I think this movie correctly identifies this as a kind of like mental prison that stops you from acting normal, and you can get a lot of shit just by acting normal.
He's quite cute about it though, and she's like, I just asked him, and he's like, oh,
he's like,
that was. I think he says something like, that was smart. Like he's nice to her about it. He's not like angry.
No. So they figure out that where
he
John
says like, you're pretty good at this. Like it's quite sweet. You know?
They figure out where John Michael Caine's body is, and then they bribe the most bribed pathologists in all of France, because Wombosi has already been through to look at the body, and they're
100%.
He's just like stuffing hundreds
in
in this guy's palm. He's just like, let me look at the body, and the body is gone because I guess the CIA don't need it anymore to try and deceive Wombosi. There is a fun thing where the pathologist's boss comes in. He's like, you can't just be letting people in here. You need to like sign in and out. And he kind of like bullies his way back out. It's like, yeah, fuck you, I'll sign out. Is this the book where you sign out? Rips the entire contents of it out so you can look at it later, and leaves, which I liked a lot.
They try and go and see Wombosi, but they find that he's dead. And from this and the phone bill from the hotel and the newspapers reporting Wombosi's claim that somebody tried to assassinate him, Bourne figures out that he was the assassin on Wombosi's yacht, and that he must have, like, something went wrong and he fell off the boat, and he's like, oh god, I'm a CIA assassin. Like,
he's horrified.
He really is. And this is where the movie like kind is straining against itself, because it's really nice that he's like, oh god, like I'm a murderer, like that's what I do. He feels bad about it, but the movie keeps telling us that this is like cool, it's sick, and like it's exciting. And I'm like, you're kind of trying to have it both ways here. You're kind of trying to do the James Bond, Daniel Craig thing. It's like, it sucks so bad being really cool,
He has to like
Oh, I hate how cool I have to be all the time. Yeah, man.
reject it in a way that actually makes him better at all the stuff you need in order to do it, which is just as you say. But Marie is also horrified. And they're coming back to their safe house, and the safe house is blown. The French police are all over it. As Chris Cooper says, what's the French word for stakeout, which I liked. And she wants to leave, and he's like, no, you cannot leave, because if you leave here, we'll die. And this is like, compare this to like a lot of the Craig stuff where he's like manhandling women. It's positively reasonable, because he's like, I will give you all of my money, I'll take you wherever you want to go and leave you there, but we can't do this in Paris. And that's like, I mean, she accepts that, but like
he does manhandle her a little bit, but yeah, you're right. It's certainly a lot better than it could have been.
Absolutely. It's like, I don't know, it feels more like sort of grabbing a kid's hand when they're about to run into the street more than it feels like sort of Craig pushing someone up against a mirror.
Yes, very true.
Yeah.
So they go to one of her ex's places in Nevers, in central France, where her ex, Eamon, has a farmhouse where they think he'll be out, and Bourne just breaks in, only to find that he is not out. Instead, he, his two kids, his Labrador, his fucking like Jeep Grand Cherokee sort of middle class lifestyle have just returned. And they have to play it off, and we get some. I like the way this treats Marie, because he gets out of the car, he like looks at his busted front door, looks at her, looks at him, and then turns to Jason Bourne, who has been driving all of this, and goes, "Did she get you into this?"
Yeah.
I really respect like how she is treated in this movie. Actually, I really enjoy.
She has.
She is like the kind of person who would like do a squat.
She's kind of a fuck up, and she's kind of a disaster, and she has like a past and stuff, and I like that. I think it's well done, actually. And I hope those kinds of people still exist. You know, it's maybe strange to say, but like this is 20 years ago, and I feel so old.
I reckon so.
We also get a nice moment where we see Bourne, like Eamon's kids are on the swings outside, and Bourne is like awkwardly standing there, doesn't really know what to do, and then she finds him in the middle of the night, like in their bedroom, like really upset.
Perfectly stood in their
kind
bedroom,
of
which isn't
slightly odd.
ideal, but
but he says like, I don't want to know who I was anymore. Like I hurt people. I don't like that. It's a really quite sort of touching.
Yeah,
bit.
I want to be a nice person, instead of whatever I was doing before, not being a nice person.
Yeah.
And yeah, him staring at children. So they come down to breakfast in the morning, and the guy, Eamon, is like, it's weird, I can't find the dog. And Jason Bourne is immediately like, fuck, shit, all right, everybody get in the basement. I'm gonna have to get into a gunfight with a guy right now.
And we never find out what happened to the dog, but the fact that the dog is gone, we're just like, oh no.
This is not the foreigner. I do not think the dog is fine. I think
the dog's dead as hell.
Yeah.
The dog is absolutely compromised. Permanent end.
Because outside is Professor Chimp with his sniper rifle.
Every time he does a kill, he says out loud, "You just got chimped."
Looks straight into the camera.
They're like, Mark, you need to stop doing it. It's not Mark Strong. Sorry, it's not Mark Strong.
My name is Clive.
I'm really sorry. I don't know why I've got face blindness for these two men specifically.
So Jason Bourne uses his gun locating powers to locate a shotgun and some ammunition, and his opening move is to blow up a petrol tank. Because I guess he is like perfectly intuited where the guy is most likely to be, and therefore where to create a smoke screen.
Well,
and
wherever he is, it's going to be a loud bang and a distraction.
True.
So
that's true, absolutely. And also, I guess, get the fire brigade there. Anyway, so Professor Chimp flees into a field of tall grass, and he's like hiding out there, and they have this very tense sort of like not quite gunfights.
And because Jason Bourne was raised by fishermen, he's one with nature. And he fires a shotgun that causes like a cloud of birds to explode up, and this kind of like throws Professor Chimp off. And then he shoots Professor Chimp with a shotgun.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether the like shooting to drive the birds away is like intended to just to be distracting, which it is, or if there's a thing there about like, you know, maybe the birds don't come back to where there's a guy because they've all been startled, so he's gonna like locate him that way.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, he shoots him in both arms with a shotgun, And so he's just lying there, torso completely shredded, and he gets his one line where he like looks at himself and he's like,
"Look at this. Look at whatever you give."
That's sort of there's your themes, I guess, is that like,
yeah, because Jason gets him down. He's not asking who he is anymore because he's figured that out, and he's like,
bonk, bonk.
Who else is there? Is there anyone else? To which like Clive. To which Professor Chimp says,
Professor Chimp.
"No, I'm alone. We're always alone.
Yeah, we always work alone.
You know this."
Yeah.
Like, you get such a genuine moment, like, because he refers to the headaches that Bourne offhandedly mentioned that he was having. It was like, "Do you still get the headaches?"
Yeah,
like, you get a real like, "Dude, this shit sucks" moment between them.
He says to Jason Bourne is what he says. Your treadstone, which is a word that we've heard a few times. It's the name of the secret project. And he's like, "Yeah, so am I. Like, do you still get the headaches? Like, yeah, it sucks, doesn't it?" Like, and he dies, and it's quite sad.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in some ways it packs in some more things about like being a spy is bad for you than a lot of the Craig stuff managed to in like hours and hours of film.
Do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Ronin, which I think did this better a few years earlier.
Yes, you're so
because
right.
Ronin didn't have this struggle of like, oh, but also it's really cool. Like,
yeah, that's true. And also, I like Sam, Robert De Niro and Ronin is my high watermark for how to write a convincing spy.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a difference there in that he doesn't ever really do the
I can tell you the license plate numbers of all 6 cars outside.
Thing, right? It's not like a kind of a thing that he's constantly doing. Instead, it's like this kind of weary, plodding, instinctual thing that he looks at where the exits are and he like goes and places a gun outside one of them maybe, but he's not like hyper vigilant.
It's not a superpower, it's more of an obligation. Anyway, if you want to hear our thoughts on Ronin, listeners, then you should subscribe to the Girl James Bond Patreon.
Absolutely. It's a great movie.
Head on over. £5 a month, you get our entire backlog, which is like 27 movies at this point. That's hours of content.
So he puts Marie and Eamon and the kids, not the dog because the dog is dead, in the car.
The dog is so dead.
Tells them to run. And Marie doesn't want to because again she is ride or die for a 6-hour car ride.
Yeah, she's so fucking ride or
she's
die.
Like he listened to me talk about Hearts of Iron 4 for 6 hours. I must marry this man. But he like forces her to go and then goes through Professor Chimp's things, in which he finds a flip phone. And he just like the
Very
CIA
stylish.
does not have fucking redial turned off, so he just like redials them.
He literally redials about like, "Hello, this is the cops. This is CIA
This
headquarters."
is the CIA.
And he's like,
everyone's
"Hey, man,
on the line.
Fuck you doing? Leave me alone."
Yeah, he does some misdirection where he realizes that he's meant to be this assassin, so he tries to take the heat off Marie by being like, "Oh, she's dead. I killed her. She was slowing me down, so I'm cool."
Which is shown to work as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I like this.
Like, they believe him, which I like a lot. Yeah.
And he's like, "Okay, I need to meet with like the guy in charge of you. Come to Pont Neuf in Paris. Come alone. Take off your jacket. Face east in the middle of the bridge, and I'll call you back." And then hangs up on them. And of course, they try and betray him. They can't not. That's just in there. So of course he has a team with him.
Yeah,
so,
the most fucking like guy from the start of Casino Royale who like puts his finger to his ear ass guy ever, because like this guy walks past someone on the bridge who is wearing like this beanie with a massive wire from like the ear into his lapel, who then as he passes him like lifts his shirt up and talks straight into it.
The worst part is the
like,
worst part
"All right,
is since we see them in the van from the airport, we know that Chris Cooper, the beanie guy, and all the other guys all drove there and presumably got out of the same van, which is marked up like fucking CIA Flower Services Limited or whatever.
Flowers
Flowers by Irene. So Bourne is watching, correctly realizes that like this is a trap. It's like, "I told you to come alone." Deals off, plants a tracking device, which I guess Professor Chimp had. They never really
because he's
explained
stolen all the Professor Chimp stuff,
Yeah,
including
he's-
his little like mono lens nonce binoculars.
Yeah.
I like-
a monocular
I like the
is so
monolens,
funny.
man.
It's like it's cool, I guess. Yeah. So he plants the tracker on the van, and then the deal having been off, Chris Cooper and his guys are like, okay, time to go back to the CIA safe house where we've been running all of this shit. There's, I mean, we've seen this a couple of times. There's fucking what's her name? Julia Stiles.
Nicolette, I think, is the name of the character.
Julia Stiles, who's been like doing sort of like coordination stuff there, looks in this movie like I think I look. He's been texted the word brick 5 times a day.
She's smoking hot in this film. Like,
I mean,
Gorgeous. What are you talking about?
she's blonde and American. Those are the 2 criteria.
I don't care.
She says a word. I don't know how you can tell she's American.
She works for the CIA.
That's true.
I think she's hot. Anyway, Chris Cooper is like, okay.
Cut that bit where I sounded like a dipshit, Nate. Thanks.
But yeah, Chris Cooper's like, okay, well, this has gone tits up. We're going to shut down Treadstone in Paris, shred everything, delete all the hard drives, pay a settlement to that woman who accused Prince Andrew of stuff, and we'll get the fuck out of here because the fisherman's coming. And so then
we didn't know this guy's been raised by fishermen. He's way above our pay grade now.
And the fisherman cometh, and he uses another one of his powers, which is to trigger every car alarm along a street as a distraction.
Yeah, not quite sure how he did that, but
he's wearing fucking
cool.
Aidan Pierce's iconic cap, I guess.
I love how shit the CIA are in this, right? Like they're trying to catch
useless.
like an ultra spy, and their gambit is all of them go in the same car, and then as soon as it's revealed that it's rumbled, they all get back in the same car and go to their safe house. And you're like, what are you doing? Like drive around a bit.
So
Put
Jason
the car somewhere else.
Jason Bourne climbs up a drain pipe, breaks in, easily disarms and interrogates Chris Cooper. He's like, who am I? What have I been doing for you? I don't want to do this anymore. And another pivotal line, right? He goes,
I don't want to do this anymore.
I don't think that's a decision you can make.
which I like. I like this idea of like, no one's ever really confronted Bond with this, by the way. Every time Bond's wanted to leave, he just hits the bricks. He goes rogue or he quits or whatever. No one's ever been like, actually, we're kind of like into you for several million quids worth of training and equipment. You're not fucking going anywhere. You think this is like a resigning type of organization? We waterboard people. Like that's an interesting thing to do, and Bond has never done it, which is curious.
And he also remembers why he failed to kill Wombosi on the yacht, because he has a little bit of a flashback where he hides out on Wombosi's yacht for 5 days. And then, like, comes up behind him when he's resting at night and, like, puts a gun to his head and is about to kill him. And sees that, like, Wombosi's children are in the room and hesitates.
And he can't do it. He's the specter of, like, family, specifically that's black family, too, is, like, I don't know, that's quite subversive. And admittedly kind of, like, Hollywood
CIA
liberal
operative.
way. But yeah, absolutely. He's like, wait a second, I can't fucking do this. I'm a monster. And it's like, yeah, no, this is good, actually. And so, of course, as he's leaving, he gets shot twice in the back and dumped in the ocean, which takes us back to square one.
It's also, like, really... It would have been very tempting to have a scene just before this where we realized, oh, Wombosi was just misunderstood, like, he was a good guy all along, and that's why, you know, it's also about to kill him. But instead, like, we don't really get that. Like, he's not portrayed as being, like, super evil, like he's a former dictator, but we are left to assume that, like, his life has value, and, like, so do the lives of his children just because they're human. And I quite like that, actually.
Absolutely. And he's also sort of portrayed as like quite brave in that, like, when Jason Bourne puts the gun to his head, he doesn't, like, beg for his life or anything. He just sits there with his kid, like, okay, well, go on then.
Yeah.
And it's
I can't, maybe I misremembered, but I think maybe he, like, pushes his child away a little bit. I don't remember.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is one of the things where it's, like, totally a pre 9/11 ass movie. Is like after 9/11, despite this having come out in 2002, like, Americans went full bore in favor of that kind of brutality. Like,
remember the torture scene from Cats and Dogs 2?
Yes.
Yeah.
Remember
Such a fucking insane thing to be able to say.
At some point, we'll have to do Zero Dark 30, and I'll talk about the sort of, like, legitimization of shooting people in front of their kids, albeit bad people. But yeah, no, he refuses that kind of masculinity. He becomes transgender. He kills the James Bond in his head because he's like, no, I don't want to be this person anymore. This is toxic. This is wrong.
He remembers that, you know, what Ma and Pa Kent fisherman taught him, which is, you know, you got to be one with nature, and you know, we take fish, but we let the ones we don't need go.
And meanwhile, Turf Conklin is like, no, you were assigned spy at birth. You have to do this forever. Absolutely. Spies cannot become not spies.
You don't get to quit, motherfucker. We own you. What do you mean?
Absolutely.
And then he goes, I would like to. And they go, oh, all right.
He calls him a malfunctioning $30 million weapon. Yeah. But like, the thing is, right, this movie was sort of a tug of war between the director, Doug Liman, and the studios. Doug Liman has made sort of a niche for himself in making kind of like marketable action movies that like think a little bit. Like he did Edge of Tomorrow, if you want the kind of like context for this. And so he wanted the last action beat in this to be Jason Bourne kills Clive Owen. And they didn't let him do that. Instead, they were like, no, you have to have more action after this. And I think that really like ruins the ending of this movie.
Yeah,
because,
it would have been better if he had just left the flat.
Yeah, what happens here is that Jason Bourne offers him a pretty compelling deal, which is leave me alone forever or I'll kill you. Also, I'm not going to like harm you or the CIA in any way. I'm just going to leave and that's it.
That's also Devon's attitude towards the audience.
Yeah, if you ever come near me, I am going to murder every single one of you. But
don't text me the word chimp.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just fucking leave me alone.
Go look at the list of code names and see if there's one I want to be.
And like, it's very stupid not to like take that deal. But of course, because we need to have an action scene, Chris Cooper has pressed the panic button. And the three goons from outside are on their way. And what we have to have is the silliest action scene in the whole movie.
It really sucks.
Yeah, it kind of comes out of nowhere and is a bit pointless, but...
Shit.
He like shoots two guns side by side. One of them is upside down. He's pulling the trigger with his pinky. He like kicks a body over a thing and rides it down to the floor, shooting a guy perfectly on the way down.
It's kind of silly.
Doesn't belong really.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't let him. They wanted to rewrite the ending, and this is the one that we got, which I think is kind of weak. And then we see that we have, of course, one Treadstone guy remaining, the weird-looking German guy.
Whose name is Zorn. Like his character's name is Zorn. I don't know what his shit is. He's called Zorn, which is very funny to me, like Jason Zorn.
Yeah, but he's been
one last guy.
He's been waiting. You think he's like...
He's a professor of forensic medicine.
Yeah, you think he's there to kill Jason Bourne because you see Bourne limping out of the safe house and him waiting in a car with a silenced pistol for him. But instead, he is there to kill Chris Cooper, to kill Conklin, as like tidying up after himself. Brian Cox has had him killed using his own death squad.
Yeah.
And that at least I like. It's very like perfunctory. He doesn't say anything or anything. He just shoots him 3 times and leaves.
It's another one of those, like, it would be made worse if there was like a line, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If there was a line at all, Ronin does this a lot as well, where like, no, he's killed him because he needed to be killed. Like, there's no reason to be like, here is my line. Here's my exposition about why this had to happen.
What would be the point in
to
saying
put it together yourself?
And then we see back in DC that Brian Cox is testifying to an oversight committee, and the thing that I like is that like Treadstone, he goes, "Oh yeah, that's wound down already. It's kind of a non-issue," and they just go, "Okay, fine." It's like one line item, and you get the sense he has like dozens and dozens and dozens of them, and I like that a lot.
This is really good.
Yeah. And
it's just good.
We get a fucking happy ending because Jason Bourne goes to Mykonos, where in Greece, where Marie has set up a scooter shop. She's using the like bank bag that he had all of his money in as a planter too, which I really like. Just as a nice little detail. And you know they reunite and they kiss, and it's a happy ending.
This is a great ending. If I finished this movie and I was like, fantastic, and then And then I was
wonder
like,
what happens
if-
in the first 10
if
minutes of the next movie.
anyone was to ever come up to me post this movie and be like, yeah, I'm making a sequel to The Bourne Identity, I would very sadly throttle them with anything that I had on hand, because this is a perfect fucking ending.
It ends quite
Leave
nicely.
it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there are four more.
Yeah, they could, and you try and think of a better way of starting a sequel than just killing Marie outright.
Really?
She is fucking donezo. I don't know if they do. I haven't watched the fucking thing. But
she's up there with the
they're
dog
so
in terms
done.
of the lifespan.
Oh, I liked
It's terrible.
her.
Well, I mean, we'll
that
get into
sucks.
that because the plan
I'm
is
not really
that we're
too
gonna-
interested in like the adventures of Jason Bourne, autistic
tough.
fisherman.
This is a dictatorship, and as such, I'm forcing both of you to follow me
Doesn't
through
have to be like
Jason Bourne's fish adventures.
Let's keep that bit going.
I really like, Raised by Fisherman is so
think
funny.
So. Yeah, his fish powers.
Well, I mean, I think that was a good movie, but we have a more objective measure than that.
We're testing out a new scientific measure because the scum system, that's for James Bond. We can't judge Jason Bourne by James Bond's standards. Instead, what we have is the girth system.
Yes.
Yeah, you may remember this from our The Rock episode with Andrew Law.
So the girth system, we're intending to figure out how obsessed this movie is with glory, intellectualism, respecting the troops, and heterosexuality. So
Out of 007.
out of 007.
Out of 007.
So
Can't forget our roots.
For glory, how much? I think this movie is positively anti-glory.
I think it is too.
Absolutely.
I think it's going to be a low one.
The only problem with this is that it does want you to be able to like still do all of the cool things. It wants you to still have the wipe transition power. It still wants you to have the autism powers, and you have to like actually be better at them than all the people who want to do it.
It's a movie that's fighting against its main character. Like, its framing is completely different to how its main character actually feels about what's happening.
Definitely.
He doesn't want to do this, but it's just like, isn't it cool that he's doing this?
I
Like,
could
no,
I could,
not really.
I could still do a very low, something like a 1 out of 7.
I think I agree there.
All right.
Yeah, I'm happy for this movie to be quite low, because that'll give an interesting narrative when we're talking about the
Sequels
next
to it, yeah.
few.
Now, intellectualism. What do we think this movie's attitude to intellectualism is?
Well, we originally kind of developed this part of the spectrum because there are some movies about masculinity that are very much like, shut up, nerd. Like, being clever is like being shoved in a locker and stuff. I feel like this movie, again, it's going to be pretty low.
I think so. Like, Jason Bourne is not portrayed as like an anti-intellectual. He doesn't. If anything, he thinks about stuff too much.
The other guy's code name is the Professor. Like,
yeah, absolutely. In fact, I would come back to the scene where she's just like, have you tried being normal and just asking people for things? That's...
to which he reveals, no.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
have considered doing that, actually.
I think this might be a 1 as well.
One again, yeah?
Yeah, 1 again.
Now, respecting the troops. This is pre 9/11 spiritually. It respects the CIA only enough to give them convenient outs in the form of like Wombosi is like shaking down the CIA, or this is a rogue CIA operation. Also, the CIA aren't really portrayed as troops in a way that they would be in a lot of later movies. They're not like interchangeable with the military. I don't know.
A 2? It could be a lot worse.
I think this could be a 2. Yeah, absolutely. And then heterosexuality. Well, there is heterosexuality in this. That no one is gay.
Which is why
in
we
the-
cannot
in the Bourne
recommend
identity. That's true. I'm afraid so.
I don't need to see that shit, man.
It's fine. I just don't
I
have them
got no
shoving it
problem
down our
with it.
throats,
Just,
you know?
that's-
Yeah, absolutely.
Just keep it away from, like, it shouldn't be taught in schools.
I don't think this movie has a lot to say about it other than that, like, what works for Jason Bourne in terms of his charm is his earnestness, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And not being a massive fucking creep. And I think that kind of like, I don't know, it's quite nice. So I think you could go like lower. I could go like 2.
I could go 2 as well. I think that like part of him getting away and having a normal life is having this kind of like, he gets to like have a girl in his life, you know?
Yeah.
That's kind of part of like, hey, actually being a normal guy is like having a relationship with a woman.
Yeah.
Well, what I
Doesn't
will
really
say
know
for
you.
it is that, like a lot of movies like this, it's not like she's taming the monster or anything, right? Like,
No.
he
no.
just wakes up and he just gets better. I mean, it's sort of, you've got a spectrum, right, of waking up and being like, oh shit, I don't remember anything that's happened to me beforehand. I need to piece together what's going on. And one side is this movie where he's like, oh, I'm really cool, but like I don't actually want to be. This shit sucks.
I want to be normal.
And on the other side is the video game Disco Elysium, where you wake up and are like, oh, I'm the world's biggest fuck up.
Yeah, absolutely.
It would have been quite funny if when she kissed him, he was like, I don't actually know if I'm straight. Like,
he's like, hold on.
Thought initiated.
I've never had to think about this one.
Yeah. No, I mean, he does kind of get like sex in a relationship as a reward at the end of the movie, but like it's portrayed, I think, relatively, I guess, deftly. So I'm happy with the 2 here.
Yeah. That gives it a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Which
that's low.
I don't know whether that's good. I don't know whether it's lower than The Rock.
Absolutely.
We can't compare it to Scum, right? But 6 is our starting point for Jason Bourne. So well done.
Let's see how the sequels handle this.
And of course, we do still have to award a Kaufman star to my man Castell. Just
my God, what
perfect.
a king!
He enters, he fucks shit up, he leaves, and boy, does he ever leave.
Veiny,
he's there for one scene and he changes our lives.
How do you say like Veiny Vini Vici? There's just like I came, I lost, and left.
Absolutely.
Do you have a Kronstein or a good night? Reason to not keep this going.
I don't for this. I feel like
because the Kronstein is usually for bad guys who go above and beyond in killing James Bond, which I feel like
that's just Castell again, really.
Yeah, exactly. Like, maybe we should fuse the Kronstein and the Kaufman into one.
I'm happy with like a double award of both to Castell here. The Good Night Cross here. I don't know if
maybe we can organically mint our own new rewards as we go forward.
Absolutely,
a special commendation of some kind to Castell for that shot. Go and look at that shot on YouTube.
Absolutely. Hell, we could do like a Castell award for
unintentional comedy.
No, that's a Kaufman.
Yeah,
true. But he's even German. Like, what are you going to do about it?
Oh my God, yeah.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
Defenestrate myself from Stuttgart.
Well, thank you very much, listeners. Don't forget to get live show tickets when they're available.
That's right.
They should be available by the time this is out. I still need to confirm with the venue, but that's going to be tomorrow that I do that. So
we're excited to see all of you. You can also buy
each other.
Shirts. You can buy posters.
You can. Shit, great point. Great fucking. When does this come out? Hang on. This comes out on Tuesday the 15th. Okay, until it might actually be over now.
You may or may not be able to buy shirts or posters.
You know what? Yeah. Okay. Until the end of the day on Wednesday the 16th, like GMT, you can still pre-order the shirts. I'll keep it going for one extra day.
Perfect.
Just in case.
Our next mainline episode of I Guess Kill Jason Bourne is going to be the Bourne Supremacy. So
one of the funniest posters I've ever seen. If you look at the poster for this, it's so good. He's holding a sniper rifle, but he's looking like the sniper rifle is pointing off the screen. He's looking straight towards the camera, and he's got one eyebrow raised, like, ooh.
Great. Perfect. That's going to be the episode art for the next one. The episode art for this one might be if we can fit it into a square image Castell going perfectly over the balcony. If not,
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah. Okay. This has been Kill Jason Bourne. I'm gonna say this with the same questioning intonation until I finally get into
it. This is a mid-season break.
Absolutely.
This isn't AMAB yet.
Absolutely. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.
Mwah. Thank you for listening to yet another episode of Kill James Bond. I've said it at the start, but I'm going to say it again here. You have exactly 1 day, if you're listening to this the instant that I have released it, to pre-order the shirt or the poster or the combo of both where you save $5. You have to go to killjamesbond.com/store and chuck that in. I am ordering all of them. I'll be ordering them during the day on like the 17th, so if you want some, then that would probably be the thing to do. Kill James Bond will return in 2 weeks' time for the next Bourne film, which I know I just said on the recording, but it's been like 2 weeks and I don't remember what the next Bourne film is. But if 2 weeks is simply too long for you to wait, what you could do is head on over to our Patreon. And next week, our bonus episode is to continue something of a theme we've got going. Police Story #1, starring Jackie Chan. Speaking, of course, of our wonderful patrons, special thanks to our £15 and above patrons, and those are Christine Fox, Fawkes Winchester, Paint McCullough, Jack Holmes, George Rohack, Thomas Oberhart, British Pterodactyl, Sol, Nikki, Phil West Music, Carolyn Tankersley, Max Kapinski, Benno Rice, Kit Devine, Michael Lada, Amanda Rogg, Max Game and Heart, Jonathan Gerd, Dread Pirate Robin, Hell Bloodhounds, Jay Martindale, Kentucky Fried Commie, Ellie Without the E, Jack Bushell, Field Commissar Jen Jen, Sydney Steckel, Tarp O, Big Titty Goth Girl, Mothman, Timothy Bajorni, Trip, Phoebe Olivia Harper, full name, hello, Charlie in the Closet, Jenna and Port, TARDIS in Paris, Elizabeth Cox, Zoe Shepherd, Finn Ross, Alfredo, Avery Darling, Philippa Smith, I Make Devon Say This Out Loud, Al Irwing, Wolfie, Rael Leal, David Wickramatno, Richard Drum, James Knapman, Lucy Keeley, Millie, Craig Fingersuck, how you doing, big man? Josh Simmons, Bon LeBon, Robbie Morgan, Penny Banks, and Tristram Wolf. It's probably not Wolf, it's got 2 O's. Tristram Wolf. Yeah, man, fucking. That's the end of the episode. Devon, Alice, Abigail, Nate Bethay, Maddie Lubchansky, Tom Allen. Love ya.